Hello. Hi, everyone. It's Jola Pypno-Crapanzano, Coaching Journey with Jola. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, I am so thrilled to introduce to you my amazing guest straight from New York City with love, Sam Liebowitz. How are you, Sam? Welcome.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Yola. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate even more because there's so many topics that we're going to talk about today that for last 12 months I am truly fascinated about. I actually need to share with my audience something today later on, and I will actually share it with you for the first time as well. Something that actually a great topic for this interview for me would be from woo-woo to wow, because everything what I once considered a woo-woo, now it's a truly wow. I actually wrote an article for a publication that got chosen, and I will be a contributing author for one publication, international one, with that article. So that is just a perfect coincidence. So my dear friends, I'm going to use my little cheat sheet to read the extensive list of Sam's different, amazing things that he's all about. So he's a coach, a mentor, a speaker, a healer. He is a TED Talk X Upper East Side speaker. He actually had this amazing accomplishment just yesterday. He launched his book that you actually can see in the background. Yeah, Everyday Awakening. I want to congratulate you so much once again. So beautiful, to have such an amazing book. And I'd like to talk about all of above. But Sam also is called the conscious consultant, because besides the fact that all the features that I already mentioned about him, he also runs an incredible business. It's a healing facility that's called Double Diamond Wellness in Manhattan, where they help people with all kinds of issues, from psychotherapy, right, through energy healing and the life guidance. So it's amazing stuff. But most of all, what I'm super excited about, some also is he has an talking alternative. See, there's things about this man. Welcome, and let's just dive in.
Okay, great. And just one thing, my TEDx talk, it was TEDx Upper West Side,
Upper West
East
Side,
Side.
Upper
I'm on
East
the
Side.
West
I
Side.
am so sorry. Thanks for correction.
You know
Like
why? Because I'm a native New Yorker and I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. So, there's a big battle between the East and West Side because each one is always trying to say that we're better than the other side.
Yes, and interestingly enough, I made mistake about that. Great, awesome, great start. Okay, so I had big variety of guests, from leaders, from healers, from energy workers in the last few months. But interestingly enough, most of them were women. You are the first male who is actually from that sort of feminine energy, right? Modality of coaching, of healing. So I would love to know how this actually appeared in your life first time. What happened that you got interested in all these topics? Because like I said, typically men that I interview are most of the strategy, business, and you have more of that more conscious approach to life.
Yeah, well, I actually have both.
You
I mean,
both.
I'm a big believer in balancing both that internal masculine and feminine energy. And even like astrologers who've given me reading, people who did my hand analysis, all kinds of things. They all say I have like a dual lifeline. Like I'm the guy with a foot in two worlds,
Oh.
the very practical and the very spiritual. And I actually got put on my spiritual path at a really young age. I mean, I had some experiences in high school that were just unexplainable. I was already turned off by religion. And so I didn't quite know what to believe. And I was just looking. And then in college, I got sort of thrust into this spiritual experience that really my identity was so tied up with it. And it was so intense for a number of years. And until things kind of didn't work out that well, things kind of went south, as they say, and I had to extricate myself from that situation to save my own sanity. And I didn't know what to believe in. I felt like the rug got pulled out from underneath me of like everything, of like what to believe and what's the how the universe and everything. And I just couldn't reconcile things. So for a long time, I just kind of threw myself into being an entrepreneur and making money, and really like just stayed away from everything for a long time. But I like to say the universe will have its way with you whether you want it to or not, and slowly but surely it kind of nudged me back onto this path. And it started off with just sort of reacquainting myself with all the personal development stuff. And then I got involved with a local group that would bring people in to talk about different healing modalities. Now,
Hmm.
at the time, I had no intention. I never thought of myself as a healer. I wasn't looking to become a healer, but I started taking all these workshops and classes for my own internal healing because I knew like there was a lot inside that still wasn't healed from the experience. Until one day, has happened. You get paired up with somebody and you're doing some modality. And I helped a woman to release a condition that she had since she was a little girl.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, and the light bulb went off. And it was like, oh, like this isn't just for me. Like I can help other people with this. And I was like, what do you do with this? I mean, like I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business coaching consultant. What do you do with this? And sort of out of that, the conscious consultant was born, because it's like, okay, I'm still a consultant. I'm just a different kind of consultant. I just look at things from a different perspective and a different angle. And so ever since then, my coaching work, and yes, I do energy healing work, but it's more holistic. It's more looking at the whole person, because most people will come to me because they have some challenge in their career, in their business, in their life, because it's not until we kind of feel things in the material world that we actually do something about it. Like we can have some unresolved issues, and as long as it's not affecting us at work, we don't really deal with it. But if it's affecting us at work, then we want to deal with
Then we
it.
pay
So
attention to it. Yeah. Hmm.
exactly. And so when people come to me, so they come to me for those issues. However, go in and I feel for what's the underlying energetic pattern that's going on here. Because inevitably, if you're having a challenge at work, that same challenge is showing up somewhere else in your life. And oftentimes it's an energetic pattern that was created back when we were young, very young, little kids. And so I work with people to kind of help them to see that this isn't just one thing, that this is something that's pervasive. And then I empower people through different processes and tools and shifting their perspectives. And as a dear friend of mine likes to say, upgrading their operating system
Yeah.
so that they can show up in a more empowered way. And they understand that actually we have a lot more power in our life than we give ourselves credit for.
Yes. And so, what is your main area of specialty in energy healing? Is it Reiki, or what kind of energy healing do you do?
Well, I am a Reiki master, but I've also learned several other modalities, and it all kind of bleeds together after a
Hmm.
while. So I kind of call it my own thing. I have two basic modalities. One that's a form of instant energetic healing that I call neutrality point therapy, and one that's sort of your more traditional, more kind of like Reiki, a more spiritual kind of healing. I call that energetic field alignment. Um, and it's typically hands-on, but I can do it at a distance. But it's not exactly Reiki because it's just my work has evolved. As most really, really good Reiki people that I've known over the years, almost none of them are doing pure Reiki anymore. It all kind of turns into something very unique to the individual. And that's one of the things when I work with energy healers, I try and encourage them, like, don't get stuck on the modality. Don't get stuck on like, oh, I'm a this healer or that healer. It's, you learn what resonates with you. You take what you're really good at, the parts you're not so good at, maybe you leave behind, and you find your own way, and you create your own modality. And
Yeah.
that's when we really live into our true nature.
Yeah, and I believe this is true all across any type of coaching or even consulting. The more we can blend our skills, our different gifts, the more of service we can be for our customers. Therefore, I am so excited that about a year ago, I was introduced to all these topics of, just energetic approach to anything, to business, to your life. Understanding the universal laws, and then energy healing and energy, how many things we can actually change in our lives just by being more open. So that is
Yeah.
fascinating. What would you say? What would you
And
say?
I just want to say one thing. It's one of my big gripes in the personal development field, because a lot of people who are big names in the personal development field, they've gone through like many different things, and then they come up with their system and they're like, okay, all you need is my system. And the answer is no. It's like you got to be where you are because you did a lot of little different things that all combined together that helped you. So it's the same thing for everybody else out there. It's like, don't just stick with one thing, find all these different things and then find your own path. So I just wanted to agree with you with that. And I just, wanted to say, like, when you hear somebody who says, oh, all you need is my thing, I would be a little skeptical of it.
Oh my goodness, you are so talking my language right now. Yesterday, I had a conversation with someone about that exact topic that, yes, there are phenomenal programs. And yes, we can get certified in a certain way. But then the next client we may need just something else. And once we have, they say, yeah, you don't need all these certifications. You don't need all this knowledge. But guess what? The more you know, the more you can be of service, the better your clients are, right? That is
Right.
so good. So with your skills, with your energetic healing talents, what are the potential best clients for you? Who can you help with?
Um, I like to work with, I can work with a wide range of people, but I find that because my approach tends to be very approachable by people who have not yet really taken the deep dive into sort of a spiritual path, I like to say I work with people who are open to something different. They're open to a different perspective, but they wouldn't necessarily identify themselves as being fully spiritual. But I
That
mean,
would
I
be me.
have.
That would be me.
Now, I have worked with people who are very, very spiritual. I mean, I'm very connected to a lot of the people in the spiritual community here in Manhattan. So I do work with people like that. However, I really like to be a bridge to bring sort of new people when they're just starting off on their path and they're not quite sure, well, what to do, where to go. Those are people I can give a tremendous amount of guidance to. And the way I work is very kind of meeting people where they're at.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to challenge anybody's belief systems. I'm not going to challenge anybody, if they're very religious or whatever they are. That's fine. They can keep those beliefs. I'm just looking to usher them along just a few steps along on their path to a different way of thinking, a different way of perceiving. And just by making a few shifts, it can make such a huge difference in a person's life.
Yeah, and once you're able to open someone's thinking on areas that they were unaware of, and if just so happens that they find that this thing actually works, you got yourself a client for life, right?
Yeah.
Because, I got to say, like, I started with just the energetic approach to, let's say, business, and then how the energetic healing and chakras. And then I went into feng shui. And then I went with my even little crystals. Look at the little collection I just purchased. I mean, it's
I
crazy.
got plenty of them right here.
And it's unbelievable, and then you go step by step by step. I noticed that something that I totally, like I said, called woo before, it cannot be just coincidences, because for someone who never, like myself, dealt with any sort of oracle card readings, and I do it still almost like to prove to myself that how could it be, like anything I do with, let's say, a card reading is so to the T for myself and the people I've done it, that I am totally blown away. And I said, isn't it something that I should pay more attention to? And I started paying attention to. So, now it's like like even you appeared in my life literally in the right time. Should we met last year, I would not have much conversation with you because I wouldn't understand. So grateful to Ginger who put us together to this talk.
Yes.
Very nice. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the book, because the
Mhm.
book that just was released yesterday to the world, your baby,
Mhm.
you had books before, right? Also different publications. That's your first one?
That's my very first
Very
book.
first baby born. Yay.
Yeah, and actually the whole process has really been something. I did, however, just last week or the week before last, I got my first article published in Creations magazine on their website. So one of my supporters who helped me with the book launch, she connected me with Creations magazine and helped me. So that was my first kind of published article as a published author, but this is my very first book. However,
Fantastic. So tell people that this book did already so well in some categories, just being one day on the charts.
yeah, we hit #1 new release, and we were #3 in New Age mysticism
Fantastic.
today, which I'm still encouraging people to share about it and to push it. I'm selling the ebook version for only 99 cents just to make it really easy for people, and also because I just want people to have access to it. I feel there's so much in the book that can support people in this time, and has a lot of messages in it that people need to hear right now,
Yep.
that I'm really trying to encourage them. And if people go to my website after they buy the book, I have a whole bunch of free gifts and discounts on things that they can get, that you get quantum levels more value for what you're spending to get the book.
Yes, it's incredible. Like just from my experience, I was co-authoring a couple books this year, and the idea of this is a gift that keeps on giving. Like you get the book, and then you have so many attached bonuses to it. Like you said, the person who actually invests a very fractional amount in it, it just like gets incredible amount of knowledge. So we are living in unprecedented times. That is said, that everyone knows, everybody's experienced it. When you went through hard times in your life, you were able to survive because you were able to ground yourself and able to like connect with the higher power, higher self, whatever you want to call it. And I'm assuming that this book is that showing people how you actually, can you tell us a little bit more, how do you come, what could I expect by buying the book?
So this book is a culmination of my blog that I've been writing for the last 5 or 6 years. And what I did is I just started writing the blog for my newsletter, so I had some extra content for the newsletter to come out. And uh, over the time, and was doing some deep inner work. I've been doing this shamanic work for the last 6.5 years, and I've just recently become a facilitator of the work. But it really got me to be very present to what's going on in my life. And so when I would sit down each week to write a blog post, I would just look at what's going on in my life right now and what kind of lesson did I learn from it. And so that's what I would share with people. I didn't necessarily go into the details of what's personally going on with me. I made it sort of more general so it would appeal to more people. And then it came March when the pandemic hit and there was a lockdown in New York City. I said, I'm not going to live in fear. This is a time for me to invest in myself. And I hired a professional editor to help me to put the book together, to kind of organize it, to help me
Mhm.
decide what are the best blog posts out of this. Because I had several hundred blog posts, and it was no easy task to kind of go through and say yes to this one, no to that one, yes to this
Yeah.
one, no to that one. And so what I ended up with is 126 of the best of my blog.
Mm.
And what I did is I organized it by roughly correlating things to the energies of the chakras. So the first chapter is about our foundation, and the last chapter is about our connection to the universe.
Oh, how
And there
wonderful.
and then there are 18 essays or 18 sections in each chapter. And it's almost kind of like an oracle deck. I look at it as like one of those books you just randomly flip open to a page and you see what the message is. Like this one says, our mistakes are not here to make us feel bad. They are here to teach us.
Here we go.
And
Yeah,
then
how
it's
good.
like a little one page, a little more than a one-page essay to read that will just give you a little insight about, in this case, mistakes, and how, like, we're not supposed to feel bad about making mistakes. It's like, when we're little children, we're learning to walk and we fall down. We don't like criticize ourselves for falling down. We get up and we continue trying to walk. But as adults, when we make a mistake like that, oh my God, I'm so awful, I'm bad. What did I do that for? Oh my, and I mean, if we talk to ourselves as little children the way we did as adults, we would never get out of the crib.
Right.
But if we can shift our perspective of, like, hey, mistakes are just the way we learn, we don't have to make them bad, they're actually an essential part of our learning process. Now when we make a mistake, it's like, oh good, I made a mistake, I learned something. We
That's
can be a
right.
little more excited about it, have a little more fun with it, be a little more playful with it.
It's just the feedback, baby. It's just the feedback. And
Right.
I love the fact that you're coming one of the busiest, most bustling, more hustling cities in the whole entire universe, right? And here you are, the oasis of peace and focus and grounding. And it's just so amazing. I can only imagine, like, if you're sitting in your studio, wherever you are, and you're surrounded outside. Do you have actually like the windows that block the sound? You should have it, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm very, very fortunate in working from home. I live right across the street from Central Park. So, not every night, but many nights during the week, my wife and I will go take a walk in the park and just enjoy the trees and the nature. And as having such a huge park right in the middle of the city is
Correct.
such an oasis for me, and that's how
Unbelievable.
I stay
Okay,
grounded
so
in the
got
middle
it.
of this craziness.
Oh, got it. So you don't need to protect yourself further. I know exactly the part where you are. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful part of the city. For those of you of my audience who are, because we have actually people listening from literally every continent to
Oh,
this. And so, yeah, New York City is a very special place. If you ever have a chance, come and visit. But I also wanted to ask you about when you come, because this is a question I wasn't originally going to ask you, but it just came right now.
it's
So
okay.
when you come across people who are not familiar with the topics we're talking about, and believe me,
Mhm.
about a year ago, I was one of these people, so I know what I'm talking about, or people who have strong opinions about it. You're not trying to convince them, do you? You're not trying to throw anything at them, because as I'm learning with the time is things appear in your life in just the right divine time, just when you are able to understand them.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes when we go back over something we heard before, we get something completely different out of it because we've changed in the process.
Yes.
But I look at myself as a person who's trying to enable and empower people.
Hmm.
So I'm not trying to change their beliefs, because who am I to change their beliefs? I don't want to disempower them and tell them you have to believe what I believe. I just want them to be a little bit better at the questions they ask themselves, at how they go about seeking it. And I tell all my clients, I go, look, this is just my opinion. This is just what I've learned from living my life. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, put it aside. Decide for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone becoming dependent on me. I'm not anybody's guru. I don't want to be anybody's guru.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just here. I'm a way shower. I'm just here to say, look, this is the path that I walked upon. This is how it serves me. If some of what I relate to you serves you, great. And if it doesn't, just put it aside.
Yeah.
And so
And mhm. And I didn't
because
mean. Mhm.
I just want to say, just because I come from that perspective, people tend to be very open to what I say because it's very disarming. They're like, oh, okay. Like they don't have to be defensive about anything because I'm not being offensive about
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that I didn't mean it in a way that you're trying to change anyone's beliefs, but more of a, are you trying to maybe educate a little bit about it? Because like I said, I believe right now more and more every day that if people had more awareness, conscious, more access to all that stuff that there's out there, like for example, manifesting, stuff like that, that blows my mind. I'm realizing with every day that I was unconscious manifester on my life. Every
Mhm.
single thing that I actually right now am, have, do, everything is because I manifested it unconsciously. Now, if I'm adding a certain things to it now, knowing what I'm doing, ooh, we're talking about different, totally different ball game.
Well, I like to say it's not about the stuff that's out there. Everything we need to know actually is right in here.
Yeah,
It's just being quiet enough and being present enough to what's going on inside of us. Most really high level spiritual traditions, they all talk about going inside, and that's one of the gifts I kind of feel of the situation that we're in, is because we are not going out as much as we used to. We're more with ourselves. It's a real opportunity to go inside. And however, I do know it's not always easy for everyone.
yeah,
A friend of mine who is a meditator, she does TM. We had a conversation not that long ago, and she said, Sam, for people like you and me, when we can't go outside, we can go inside. But a lot of people have a hard time with that. So I'm looking to help people to find a way to go inside that's not so confronting, being gentle. And I'm a big believer in sort of the gentle baby steps and not like jumping off the cliff and into the deep end, because our nervous system, it freezes up when we do
yeah.
something extreme. And sometimes the fastest way to go is very, very slow, because that's what our body and our nervous system needs.
Yes, it's like the acclimatization to any situation. Your work is so close to, in my mind, to work of Eckhart Tolle at that sense of the present and grounding and being this peaceful. I loved how one of the speakers actually listened to this past week was saying he went to Eckhart Tolle's conference somewhere, paid thousands of dollars in Canada, and then the guy had like a 2-hour speech for them, and then he sent them back to some lake, walk around in nature for hours. And at first he was like, what kind of loser am I to do this? And then the next day he was starting having breakthroughs, and now he considers this event one of the most groundbreaking in his life. So it is all connected to what we're talking about. So some
Yeah.
question related to it. So how would you say the stuff that you're all about, the stuff that you teach, the stuff that you wrote in your book could help people in these uncertain times right now?
So there are a couple of things. One of the most important ones, and actually it starts off. It's the first or the second one. Well, the first one, yeah, the first three are really the linchpins. The first essay is "We are perfectly imperfect." All right. So when we come to accept that we're perfect exactly the way we are, we don't have to be so uptight about it. So it doesn't mean we can't grow. It doesn't mean we're not changing, evolving every day, but we're already perfect.
Mm,
The second one is we're not broken and we don't need to be fixed.
love it.
Right? We sometimes come to doing this work from a place of, oh my God, I feel so awful. There's something wrong with me. I got to do. No, there's nothing wrong with you. You do not need to be fixed. Does not mean you cannot feel better. Does not mean that you cannot grow, but you're doing it from a place of, I'm not broken. And that place it just relaxes the whole body when you come from that place. And then the third one, which for me is the key one, it is life happens for us, not
Not
to
to
us.
us. Yes.
And that is a big homage to my dear friend Jennifer Huff. I went to a weekend training where she was the key facilitator for it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And when she said it, it's something that like in my body, it so resonated. And it's like, I knew it and I lived that way, but I'd never said it that way. And when those words came out of her lips, life happens for us, not to us, I was like, yes, that's it.
Yeah.
It just crystallized that thing for me. And when we really take that in and live that way, that life happens for us, not to us, then we don't have to be so judgmental. We don't have to be so defensive. We don't have to stay so stuck in the way things are, that if things shift and change around us, we can be fluid and we can change with them. because it's happening for us,
Yeah, and we
not
don't
to
have to
us.
feel like victims all the time because, oh, we are poor things, there's a reason for everything. And even if at any given moment, it's hard to understand. And sometimes truly is hard to understand the piece. What is it for me there? Life shows that it truly was a big blessing, big lesson.
And absolutely. And this does not mean that there are not difficult things that we go through in our life. Absolutely. I've been through some horrendous, horrendous things in my life. But it's when we come from this place that it's happening for us, even though it's difficult, it makes it just a little bit easier
Mhm.
when we come from the perspective that it's happening for us, even when it's difficult, even when it's challenging, even when it throws our life a huge monkey wrench into our life and we don't know what to do with it. If we come from the perspective that it's happening for us, maybe we just need to ask ourselves that question.
Yeah,
How does this serve me?
yeah.
What is this trying to teach me?
Exactly. That piece teaching you there is a lesson in every adversity, right? That is so wonderful. I love it. And so I'd like to move swiftly to one more big part of your life, which is your alternative radio talk show. That is amazing. And again, you are a very interesting person, from blogging to book, from podcasting to radio show. That's what I'm talking about. That's a high performing man for me. I am a high performance coach. I love how you work, how you operate. So tell me about your radio, how people can find it, what do you talk about it, and so on and
Mhm.
so forth.
So I just want to be clear. It's an internet radio station. It's not a
Mhm.
traditional station. There's no antenna. You're not going to find us on the dial. You can listen live. Our website is www.talkradio.nyc. And it actually kind of fell in my lap. I've been running the station over 10 years now. And it came to me because I met a guy at a party, and he was a mutual friend, never met him before. And I asked him what he did, and he told me he was an acupuncturist. But in the next breath, he goes, "But I've decided to give up all my worldly goods. I'm becoming a Buddhist monk." I'm like, oh, geez. I said,
Robin
well, if you,
Sharma.
yeah. And I was like, well, did you sell your acupuncture practice yet? And he goes, no, not yet, but I'm talking to some people. And I'm like, well, I network a lot. I know a lot of people. Maybe I can help you sell it. And he goes, okay, that would be great. And then he says, oh, yeah. And I started this internet radio station. I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. Acupuncturist radio station. What's your name again? And he says, Giorgio Rapetti. And I was like, I know who you are because my friend Larry does a show on your network and he's told me about you, but he's never introduced me to you. And then a week later, I'm in his office and he's telling me all about his acupuncture practice, the radio station. And I'm like, this is such a good deal. And I jokingly, at the end of this 2.5 hour conversation, I say to him, you know what? If I can't find somebody to buy your business, I'll buy it myself. Not really taking myself that seriously, but in the end, that's ended up what's happened. My wife and I, we bought his business, brought in an acupuncturist to handle his clients. And then I just fell in love with this idea of the station. I've been doing my own show. My own show is called the Conscious Consultant Hour, and we stream it live every Thursday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time, right on talkradio.nyc. And I do a Facebook Live on my Facebook pages. Just look for Sam Liebowitz, the Conscious Consultant. You'll find it. And then I brought on like all these other people, and I found different people. And the station is a very a wide breadth of different kinds of shows. We have some very business oriented shows. We have some spiritually oriented shows. I even have a show that's a history of New York neighborhoods. I love that show because I'm a native New Yorker and I learn something new about the city every week. So we're really about inspiring, empowering, uplifting, and educating people. And that's who I work with. Now, especially, people are so in tune with the idea that they need more presence online. I have a lot of people coming to me who don't know anything about the technical end of things. They know they want to do a podcast, but they don't know anything about it. And so those are the people I work with, and we get them set up. We handle all the technical stuff on our network so that people like you can just show up and do their genius. And we help them to be consistent, and we give them a lot of support, and we cross promote all the shows on the network. So it's very community oriented in a way. I've really got a wonderful group of hosts, really nice people, and really with an eye to serve our audience. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend people check it out. It's talkradio.nyc and my show, and you can listen live, or I'm on all of the different podcasting platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon now. And my show is called The Conscious Consultant Hour.
Wonderful. That is so good. You got yourself a new listener here for sure. And, I have to say that, this, I didn't even mention that this is an internet radio because, to be honest with you, lately, like last year or so, every radio that I am talking about, either in my show, I was invited to be interviewed on that. It's all internet radios. Those are the radio stations that give people this different approach to life, the more unusual things. The media that you listen to, the regular radio, it's actually advertisements nonstop. If it's not the satellite radio, you just get crushed by, there's so little content. It's just all, promotions. So
And that's why the name of the company, even though the website name isn't anymore, is Talking Alternative Broadcasting, because we're an alternative to mainstream talk radio.
yes,
Because I don't need to play the fear game, I don't need to play the politics and the divisive stuff. I want to bring people together. I don't want to divide people. There's enough
exactly.
things dividing us today. We actually need to come together now more than ever before. This pandemic is a huge challenge. We have to stop arguing with each other and stop accusing each other. We need to work together. And believe me, this is just the first of a number of world crises to come. And those who are going to fare the best during these crises are the people who bring together community, who bring people together, not who divide people.
Yes, yes, that is so, so true. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. I am so, so grateful for your time. I know you in the middle of the biggest launch of your life, and yet you found time to be here today. Thank you very much. We'll post underneath the link to your book and to your radio show. This way people can find you easily. Um, I'm hoping that out of all of this, I'll get a private autograph in the book one day when we get to meet in New York City. Would love to have that. And
Absolutely. You let me know when you're going to be here. I'm more than happy to give you an autographed copy. Thank you, Yola.
yay. And yeah, and I wish you from the bottom of my heart all the best of luck. And yeah, please feel free anytime if you have anything new coming up, just contact me and I'll be happy to share it, because that's what I'm for. I'm showing people how many amazing things there are out there and that I was closed off. So now I'm trying to just share my perspective and show people that there's so much out there. Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Yola. I really, really appreciate it. And I really want to thank all your listeners for tuning in. And I sincerely hope that you've gotten something out of today's show, some little message that you've heard that helps you on your path. And if that's happened, then I've done my job.
Yeah, I think even if you didn't talk much, just the piece that you like comes out of your persona, it is that thing that I think so many people need these days. I felt it. I truly did. So your energy works. Thanks, Sam. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.